Niklsun here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be going over all of the day's movie news, as well as going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. A deal that every fanboy out there has wanted for years to go through has finally gone through. Marvel and Sony have struck a deal to share the custody, essentially, of the character of Spider-Man. So, there's a couple of really great things about this. First off, Spider-Man is now going to be able to interact within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So he'll be able to interact with characters like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and potentially future Avengers down the line, such as Doctor Strange, Black Panther, all those kind of guys. It also does mean that Marvel will have a hand in developing the Sony standalone movies. Now, the way that the press release is worded states that, Sony is bringing Marvel into the Spider-Man universe. And I don't know how accurate that actually is, because that doesn't make any sense. The whole reason why this is happening is because the Spider-Man universe has not been handled very well. It's over convoluted, it's confusing, storylines don't make sense. They've already had to reboot it a couple of times. People are still starting to get tired of it. So having Marvel come in and shepherd this really does make a lot of sense, because we're going to get the proper adaptation of the character. We're not going to have too many producers with their hands in the cookie jar, because Kevin Feige will come in and just easily say, we're out. Look at it from Marvel's perspective. Marvel does not need Spider-Man. It's great to have him back. Absolutely. I am not, that's not my point here, that I'm saying that, it's not a great advantage to have Spider-Man. I'm just saying that what Marvel has proved, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy last year, is they can take basically any of their comic properties, regardless of how much people actually know about them, and make them financial successes, make them critical successes, make them fan successes. They've proven that. They don't need a character like Spider-Man anymore, because they are the brand. So having something like Spider-Man come over, and then having Kevin Feige saying, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and somebody in Sony goes and says, well, we also need to do this and this and this, that is where it could get worrying for me, because that's what happened with Amazing Spider-Man 2. You can tell that there were a lot of segments in that movie where it was, no, we need him to do this. Look at the very beginning of the movie. It's all goofy fun, him fighting around with the Rhino, or pre-Rhino, Alexei Segnichevich, or whatever his name was. The next scene, he is bawling his eyes out. The tone of the movie goes from here to here to here to here. It has no idea what kind of a movie it is. Goblin, or Harry, turns into Goblin, actually deforms into Goblin in what, a half hour? And he immediately knows how to expertly wield the pumpkin bombs and also the glider that he has. The whole movie was just an absolute mess. And Marvel getting the character under control means a couple of things. One, we're going to get, and they've already outlined this. This is confirmed details. We're going to be getting a Spider-Man that's going to be taking place in high school, much like what they did with Amazing Spider-Man, but they're going to continue that. Their aim is to have him, the storyline that they want is to have the dual identity crisis. That is going to be the main staple of their movie. And it's going to be about Spider-Man dealing with, or Peter Parker dealing with being a regular teenager in high school, dealing with all the high school tropes, going to class, getting your homework done, while also being a crime fighter. They're not really going to touch on the love story. I'm assuming there's going to be one. I'm assuming I'm pretty sure Mary Jane is going to be in the movie, but that's not going to be the focus. We're not going to see her as the damsel in distress again. At least I hope not. We've just seen that too many times. But I mean, there's a lot of really great news. First off, we're getting a new Spider-Man movie under the tutelage of Marvel on July 28, 2017. So they've already confirmed that. They've also confirmed that Spider-Man will appear in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film prior to that. Now, looking at all the available options, Civil War is the only one that makes sense. Wall Street Journal ran a story saying that they had confirmed that was the movie, although we have not heard exactly from Marvel. But let's face it, it's the only one that makes sense. They don't have enough time before Age of Ultron comes out to actually add a stinger on there, outside of the fact of it's Spider-Man coming out and saying, hey, I'm here, and that would be disservice to the character, so I hope that they don't do that. From my understanding, I heard a while ago, they have 2 scripts for Captain America Civil War. One of them features heavily Spider-Man. The other one does not include him. Now, if they go with the Spider-Man script, my assumption with that was that it did not include Black Panther. Or if it did, it was a very reduced role. So what I hope that they're able to do is they're able to take elements from the Spider-Man script and fuse them with the script that they have now, because I really do want Black Panther to be given his shot. I don't think that he should be put to the sidelines because Spider-Man is coming in. Even though if they are adapting the Civil War storyline, Spider-Man has a very prominent role in that, for any of those who have read it. A lot of us have been speculating that Black Panther was going to actually take the Spider-Man type role in the Civil War movie if they were to still indeed adapt that storyline. So there's still a lot left up in the air as to what they could actually do, but they are going for a high school level student or a high school level actor. Now, that's not to say they're looking for a 16-year-old. They're looking for somebody in their early 20s. The two names that have been bandied around so far have been Dylan O'Brien and Logan Lerman. Those are the two that are... I mean, Logan Lerman makes a lot of sense. He was the second choice if Andrew Garfield turned down the role. Or if he didn't get it, it was going to go to Logan Lerman. So those two are the two that are on the short list. I myself... I still haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow night, but I would love to see what Taron Egerton could do, because he looks like he absolutely steals the show in Kingsman: The Secret Service. The one condition that I would have with that is he would need to work on the accent. He has a very thick Welsh accent, and I don't think that that would be a hard problem. I mean, look at Henry Cavill with Superman. You know, you look at almost every superhero that we have is being played by a British guy, so or at least has been in the past. So. I mean, you look at Christian Bale. So, Marvel, like, the other part of this as well, Marvel has the ability not only to bring Spider-Man into any one of their movies, starting with Civil War. You'll definitely see him pop up in Avengers Infinity War. He's definitely going to be in there. But this also means that Marvel can then introduce characters or place characters that they've already established in the MCU into a Spider-Man film. So this is very much a joint collaboration between the two. And this is a huge deal for Hollywood, because this is like, I've always described it, it's like Ford, you going to a Ford dealership and being able to buy a brand new Dodge truck. You can't do that. You can buy used ones if they have them in the used department, but you can never go there and buy a brand new one because they're two competing companies. But these are two competing companies that are now going to work together to try to best bring about this character. It's only going to do positive things for them. It's going to allow Marvel to further adapt storylines that they've had in their comic lines that people have been wanting to see, and also have their interpretation of the Spider-Man character on screen. Sony gets to have the padding from Marvel's interpretation of the character and further develop their individual stories, with Kevin Feige serving as a producer. So, I mean, to me, it's a win-win scenario for everybody involved, especially the fans, because we now get to see our proper inclination of the character of Spider-Man. Now, one of the biggest questions, or there's two that I want to address here. One, who is going to direct the movie? That's one of the biggest questions. Now, there's a lot of talk about, could Mark Webb come back or anything like that, because he did a very serviceable job on the film. He was just hammered down by a poor script and overbearing executives. But he's not going to be coming back. Andrew Garfield is not coming back. So we're getting a new Spider-Man. We're getting a new director. My choice, if I had to go right now and looking at if they're really trying to radically change the character, really trying to update and reboot this character without telling an origin story, because we're not getting an origin story, my choice would be Gareth Evans. Now, for those of you who don't know who Gareth Evans is the director of The Raid and The Raid 2. I personally think, especially looking at The Raid 2, because The Raid was basically just, it was a reason to have these cool fight scenes. There wasn't really much of a story there. But then you look at The Raid 2, and The Raid 2 is very much in line with something like The Godfather, with action, or, what was the other one? The Departed. You know, it's very much like that. It's dealing with the seedy underworld. It's dealing with the criminal organization and his try to rise through it and get to the top, get to the point where he can actually go after the person that he's been trying to go after. And the fight scenes are absolutely incredible, and they're real. Now, part of that is not only because of his ability to wield the camera and develop action sequences, put the blocking, set the camera up, all that stuff, but it was the actors that he got. It was the martial artists that he got. So could he do something like that with Spider-Man? I personally think that he could. Because just looking at The Raid 2, the guy not only is just a great action director, he's a great director. He's able to tell a masterful story and have interesting, developed characters. which is what we need. Because I felt that a lot of the times, outside of the character of Peter Parker, everybody else falls flat. We don't really care about them as much. Like, unless they're really playing up the kind of corniness, if you will, like Willem Dafoe did as the Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man movie. You know, I mean, I had a lot of hope for Rhys Ifans, who played the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man. But again, he played it a little bit comical as well. As the actual Doctor, he was fine. But when he was Kirk Connors, he was good. He was a very talented actor while he was portraying that part. But once he got into the Lizard, again, you kind of have to at that point. So getting somebody like Gareth Evans or somebody in that vein, at least in my opinion, I think could work. It's also going against the grain. It's not going to, who was Sundance's top pick this year? Let's get that director on board. I mean, that's a great way to go about it. You see that they're proven with a story. But, I mean, Gareth Evans, he's had his films premiere at other film festivals like, you know, TIFF and stuff like that. So I personally think that he would be a great choice to be a director. What do you guys think? Who do you think would be a great director? I'd really like for you guys to put a comment in there to see what you would think about that. But one of the interesting things as well is Sony is developing their standalone Spider-Man film. It will not be a Marvel film. It will be a co-production, as far as I'm aware, although it might be completely Sony. The press release does state that they have full creative control, and I don't believe that for one goddamn second. I do not think that Marvel will allow their character to go into a movie. Let's just say this. This is an example. We introduced Spider-Man in Civil War, and he is done as Marvel's interpretation. Then in Spider-Man, the one that's coming out in 2017, they do something that blows up half of New York. Well, now Marvel has to address that. They also will have to incorporate Stark Tower. The Avengers now will have to incorporate Oscorp Tower if they're going to re-adapt the Oscorp Tower into this new movie. We still don't know anything really about the storyline, who the villains are going to be, or anything like that. I personally hope that they go with something a little bit more unique, something we haven't seen before. I mean, Vulture would be a really cool idea because they have been working on that. Vulture originally was supposed to be in Spider-Man 4. That was going to be directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. They actually cast John Malkovich in the role, which I thought that was an inspired casting. He would have been great as the Vulture. But then that whole thing fell apart because he wanted too much in the budget. He also was griping against Sony's demands for the movie. And all. It was just a back and forth that didn't work out. They ended up canning the film, did the reboot, and the rest is history. So with the movie coming out in July 28th of 2017, for those of you who are aware, that used to be Thor's release date, Thor Ragnarok. So Marvel has actually had to push the release dates of all their other films. So as it stands now, Thor Ragnarok will open up on November 3rd, 2017, which was originally Black Panther's release date, which Black Panther is now opening up on July 8th, 2018, which was Captain Marvel's original release date. Captain Marvel is now releasing on November 4th, 2018, which was the Inhumans release date. Now, Inhumans has taken a brand new date of July 12th, 2019. The biggest question to me, the way that they previously had it set up was Black Panther's movie would be before Avengers Infinity War. Now that's no longer the case. And I wonder if that's going to affect the story. Because Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, it's going to end on a cliffhanger of sorts. We don't know if there's going to be a time delay or anything of that. We still don't know. We still know very, very, very little about the movie. But that also does mean, were there going to be questions that were asked in Black Panther that were going to be answered in Infinity War? And if that's the case, they now have to reverse that. This is all based on the assumption as well that Black Panther will actually be in Avengers Infinity War. We do not know that. We do not know that. They have not given us that information yet. So this is all kind of assumption. But also Inhumans. Inhumans was supposed to come out between Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. If those characters are going to factor in to Avengers Infinity War, then this move signals that their origin story, or at least their introduction into their own standalone film, will take place after their actual introduction into the MCU. Now, it was originally going to happen like that, but what could have happened is in Infinity War Part 1, you introduce the Inhumans. But everybody's kind of like, what's going on with this? This doesn't make any sense. Well, cut to 6 months later, you now have a movie explaining the Inhumans. So then when Infinity War Part 2 opens up, you now have a better understanding of their backstory and what their characters mean and what they can do and everything like that, leading into that movie, making it more accessible and exciting. But now I don't believe they can do that unless, I mean, we could come out, or they could come out and say that, you know, they're going to be pushing one of the movies back. They're going to have maybe, instead of Thor Ragnarok in November, maybe they could push that back to August of 2017. You know, they could do that if they really wanted to. They could even release it somewhere around when Spider-Man comes out. They could do it sometime in June. You know, they could push it up. They have Guardians of the Galaxy coming out at the beginning of May. And then if you cut to a month and a half later, and you have in the middle of June, you then have Thor Ragnarok come out. And then a month and a half later, you go to the end of July, and you have Spider-Man released. That could work because Spider-Man still is going to be a Sony production. It's not going to be Marvel undertaking that production on top of the other films that they're going to be doing. So it could work. They could do it. And that would then allow for their storytelling to work in the way that they've already set it out to be. Because when they had that roadmap, this is 7 years in the making. You know, we've been working on this for this long, and now they get Spider-Man and they just push it off. I have a feeling we're going to hear another announcement probably within the next 6 to 8 months, telling us that, oh, by the way, these movies are actually shifting around again, and this is going to be the order that we get them in. But again, that's just speculation. We don't even know if some of these characters are going to be introduced or even factored into Avengers Infinity War. So a lot of that is kind of up to speculation, but you can guarantee that he's going to appear in Avengers Infinity War. There's no way around it. There's no way that you would have him appear in Civil War and then have his own standalone movie and then not factor him in to Infinity War. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's just my thought on it. One of the most interesting aspects about this whole deal that came out, apparently, Sinister Six, Venom, and the female-led Spider-Man movie are all still being developed. Now, it's said that Kevin Feige is not going to be involved in any creative decisions with those films. They're still not, from what we've heard, they've been delayed. They are not, like, Sinister Six is still not coming out in November of 2016. We're not going to be getting that movie then. Venom is not going to be coming out in 2017, most likely. Unless they're able to do Spider-Man, Venom, Sinister Six. That would actually be kind of cool. If they could do it right. That's the main thing. They need to do it right. And Drew Goddard, I think, is the right guy to do it. At least that's my hope. But I really do hope that both Drew Goddard and Alex Kurtzman are both involved. Because Alex Kurtzman, to me, he's got potential. He really does. He's got fantastic ideas. Both him and Roberto Orsi. I found Alex Kurtzman, just listening to them talk and all this stuff, I found Alex Kurtzman to be the smarter of the two. Not to say that Roberto Orsi is dumb or anything of that sort. He's still a very intelligent man. But in terms of being able to grasp not only the concepts that they were working with, but when to step back, when to not push that line, I felt that Alex Kurtzman rode that path a little bit better than Roberto Orsi did. So I do hope that they're both still involved. But again, Kevin Feige will not be involved in those films as it stands right now. He will only be involved in the Spider-Man spin-off film, or the standalone films, I should say. I mean, this is so much information. Like, I'm still flabbergasted that this actually went down. I have been guessing that this would happen sooner rather than later. Like I said, like there were talks. I've talked about this on previous episodes. You know, there were talks about Spider-Man being in Avengers 4, which we now know is probably going to be true because it's going to be 3 and 4 he'll be in. But how he'll factor in, whether or not they're going to do a mini origin story, or if they're going to skip over that entirely. If they're going to relaunch the character, I wouldn't mind an Incredible Hulk type scenario where they have over the opening credits, you know, just tell us the story, not showing that he's been bitten, but just see, like, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, go and just through voiceover talk about his origin for like 3 minutes and then cut into the movie, because that works. We already know the origin. Everybody out there who's going to go and see this movie knows the origin. We do not need to see it again. The only reason that I thought that it actually kind of worked in Amazing Spider-Man was because they were completely developing an entirely new character. And you needed to understand Peter Parker in this age. Because when Sam Raimi did his films, it was Peter Parker from the 1960s. And that does not connect with us anymore. We don't share those same sensibilities. We're, oh, gee golly, you know, we're not like that anymore. So having a new age version of Peter Parker, I think personally worked. The character I would like to see adapted, I want Miles Morales. And, I mean, if we're going to go Miles Morales, the obvious choice to cast is Donald Glover. The problem is he's too old. They're going to be going to a character who's in high school. Donald Glover does not look like he is still in high school. He could still pass off as college. He could definitely still pass off as a college student. But they're going high school. So they cannot do that. At least in my opinion, they can't make it work. But there are other great choices out there. In terms of Peter Parker, again, Taron Egerton or Logan Lerman, for me, those are the two at the top of my list. Again, I'm going to have a better idea of that once I see Kingsman tomorrow night. So I'm really excited. I'm actually going out for my birthday because today's my birthday. Yeah, that's right. I'm being selfish right now, letting everybody know it's my birthday. I don't care. I don't get to do that often. So, but yeah, it's to me, it's just very surprising that they still haven't. I mean, it's still early on. We don't even know when this deal actually did finalize. I mean, it could have finalized right before they announced it. We still don't know. There's still a lot of information that they need to work out, whether it's going to be Parker or it's going to be Morales. You know, if the movie's coming out in 2017, they're going to have him appear in Civil War. Now, if he is going to be a major character in Civil War, then that means they need to have him cast within a month, because he's going to need to start, whoever they get is going to need to start training and get ready for the film shoot to start in April. If he is going to be a more supporting character, they can shuffle around the shooting schedule, because let's say, okay, it's starting in April, it's probably going to be a 4.5-month shoot. So that's going to take you May, June, July, August. That's going to take you through the whole summer. Let's say Spider-Man is going to be in 30% of the movie. That's just for argument's sake. Well, then that means that they could shift around all of the sequences that are going to be used to film Spider-Man and have them be shot last. They could very easily do that. I mean, going back to a movie like War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg movie with Tom Cruise, that movie was greenlit and rushed. They started shooting that movie in November and it was released the following June. And a movie with that level of CGI, what they did was they took every segment of the movie that was going to have special effects or visual effects that needed to be put in there. They shot all of those parts first. So they had enough time to work on the CGI. And then they shot all the other scenes. So they shot all the scenes in the basement. They shot the scene where he comes out with the plane and the plane's all demolished, which, by the way, I actually got to I got to go to that set when I was at Universal Studios, which I thought was really, really cool because it looks just like it did in the movie. But I'm getting sidetracked. There's lots of possibilities that they could do, but if they were able to do that and they were able to shuffle around the filming schedule and get the last month and a half, so, you know, the 2 weeks into July until the end of August, if that's what their shooting schedule is, if that's where it's going to end, well, then that means that they could wait until April or May, or they could take their time at least to find the right actor, instead of just saying, well, I like that guy, let's go and see. Do the screen test, he didn't work out, but he's better than everybody else, so let's just choose him. That's what I hope they don't do. I hope they don't rush themselves and choose somebody just because they're now on a time frame. They're on a time schedule, and they need to adhere to that. If they're able to shuffle things around, it'll work out best for everybody, because that means they'll give them time to find the right actor to play the role. They'll be able to update the script if need be to better utilize the character, instead of just having him show up and say, hey guys, by the way, I can swing. You know, like, I'm really hoping that under Marvel's guidance, they can actually properly adapt this character. So I'm really excited about this. I've been talking about this for a while on the show, that I hope that this actually happens, because it makes sense for everybody involved, makes sense for the fans, going to make everybody happier. So I like this news. I'm very much on board with it, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think about this. What are your guys' thoughts about Spider-Man joining? What are the pitfalls or downfalls that this could bring up? What are the benefits to it? You know, just let me know in the comment section what you guys think about. And also, who is your choice to direct? Who do you want to see direct this movie? Because that, to me, is almost just as important as who you're going to get to play Peter Parker. This news just came out on Monday, so we've got a lot of time ahead of us for new information to come out. And it's already been spilling out over the last couple of days, so I'm sure within a week or two, we're going to have a lot more of an understanding about this. But definitely before the filming of Captain America Civil War comes out, we'll have a lot more information to share. And once we get to that point, I will definitely update you guys on here. We have our first look at the trailer for the upcoming new adaptation of Hitman Agent 47. Now, for those of you who are unaware, this is based off of the PlayStation video, or sorry, not PlayStation, the actual console video game and PC video game Hitman. Most recently had Hitman Absolution, which, if you guys haven't checked that out, that game is really cool. It's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of great stealth missions and just assassinations, having to dress up, having to, you know, like hide yourself. Everything about it is just really cool, really inventive, really smart. So I definitely recommend to check it out if you guys are into playing games. The one thing I was really surprised about with this trailer, I got to let you know off the bat, This has a lot more action than I was anticipating, because the one thing about the character of Hitman, he is a stealth assassin. He is not a walk into the room, unload on guys. I mean, in the game, you can do that. But the whole point of the game is for you to get the most points that you get in every level is determined by how stealthy you are. Whether or not, if you end up having to subdue or kill somebody. Generally speaking, if you kill somebody, you start to lose points. If you get through a whole mission with only killing your specific target, you'll get the most points that you can. If you subdue somebody, you have to hide them. You know, if you're wearing a costume, generally you have to stand away from people or else they will recognize you, or at least understand that you are not the person who you're pretending to be. There were a lot of those aspects to the video games, which I thought made it stand out and made it different from all the other video games that were like it out there. This movie looks like they are going after huge set pieces, which, again, they look cool. They look like they're going to be a lot of fun. Zachary Quinto actually looks like he's going to be having a little bit of fun in this movie. He's playing a slightly different type of character than he's played in the past. But, I mean, it still looks fun. It still looks entertaining. So I'm definitely on board with this. I've always been a fan of Hitman. I actually didn't mind the Hitman movie that came out. While I saw a lot of its problems. You know, it was forgettable. It didn't have anything really of value. I think Timothy Olyphant, as good of an actor as he is, I think he was miscast. Just everything about it. Now, there's a little bit of trivia with this. This movie was originally supposed to star Paul Walker. And as everybody out there knows, he unfortunately passed away November 30th of 2013. And he was unable to fulfill the role. So an actor by the name of Rupert Friend actually came in and ended up getting the role and has now portrayed the character. And I do not mean to sound negative on Paul Walker, but I think this is the better choice, because just watching the trailer, seeing the photographs of him, I mean, like, that's Rupert Friend right there. Just looking at him, he looks like Agent 47. He looks like him. So to me, it works. You know, I mean, you've got the part at the beginning when he's sitting there and he's very, very stoic, very calm. The officer says, "And who are you here to kill? Like, you know, you better cooperate." Or I can't remember exactly what he says, but he goes, "You're wrong, officer. See, you're trapped in a room with me, and now you've brought me my gun. You should let me go." And then he kind of chuckles, and then he kicks the table. The table slowly moves up. This is the part that I thought that was kind of a plot hole. I didn't know that a gun could actually do that. If you just took a gun and went like that to it, then it could fire. And also, he had enough time once the gun shot to stand up and put his arm up and shoot off the chain. So, I mean, there's a couple of plot holes in the trailer. Absolutely, there's going to be. There's also going to be leaps of logic that you need to understand going into this movie. It's not going to be set in the real world. It's set within the video game world. So there's going to be certain things that they will change, or certain things that will seem impossible in the real world, yet they're able to do them here. Some of the shots to me look a little odd in the trailer. I know I'm nitpicking at this point, but still. Like the shot where I think it was either Hitman or it was Zachary Quinto. I can't remember exactly. But they ran up behind the other one, grabbed him. They fell off of a ledge on top of a train and then kept going. And the shot just looked a little weird. Maybe it was just because the CGI wasn't finished yet, or they still needed work to work on the actual orientation of the camera if it was a CGI shot. You know, the one scene with the car on fire and it coming towards the camera and then hitting that wall, that to me looked a little odd. The big helicopter crash scene at the end, there was one shot in that trailer, or in that scene with the helicopter crashing into the building, that gave me a lot of hope for this movie. Now, it could just be the nature of the scene itself, but one of the shots with the helicopter moving its way through the building while the propeller blades are still going, you can see a big blood splatter hit the camera. And it only lasts on there for maybe a couple of frames, but you can see it go, and then it cuts to another shot. So this signals to me this movie is going to be very R-rated, which is what we need. Now, the first movie was very R-rated, but it was not really for anything in particular. There wasn't really anything of major violence in the movie. I'm just hoping that there's a lot of moments in the movie where he gets to be the stealth assassin. They gave you that little hint at the very beginning when he walks out of the room and he's in the military garb. You know, I like that was a nice little nod to the show, or to the game. There's a lot to like about this. I just hope that they're able to succeed with it and they're able to fulfill this movie. The one part that kind of has me a little skeptical is that it's being released at the end of August, which for a summer movie, that's not the greatest time to be releasing a film. Now, looking at Guardians of the Galaxy, that movie opened up at the beginning of August, and it had the remaining weeks because nothing good really came out, because that's where the studios dumped their garbage. I mean, you had like Sin City 2, which to me, I liked the middle segment of it, but outside of that, I did not like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt scenes. I didn't like the Jessica Alba scenes. Expendables 3 to me was a letdown. That movie definitely should have been R-rated. What came out at the end of August? I don't even remember what came out in the last week of August. That's how forgettable of a movie it was. So this has me a little bit worried just on its release date, but still, I have hope for it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you think that this movie could succeed, if you think it's just another generic action film set in Europe or Asia. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, whether or not you're anticipating this movie. It's going to be opening up on August 28th of 2015. If we do get more information about this topic, I will definitely update you guys on here. Well, that'll about do it for us here on Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Go ahead and click that subscribe button there in the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. And you can also give us a like on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Movie News with Niklsun. If you ever have a topic or a question you'd like to have discussed on the show, you can go ahead and put a comment in our comment section, or you can email us at movienewswithniklsun@gmail.com. And on every Friday episode, we'll try to answer as many as we can. But until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.